Hello, everybody. I'm Jake, and this is...
I'm Nick.
I'm Matt.
And we just got done seeing Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and we're doing this vlog midnight screening style. No intent of ripping off Brad Jones and what he does, but these days he's actually not doing videos in the car anymore, so I guess it's all fair game, and
others pick up the slack.
Yeah, others have done it too. We just saw this movie. Nick and Matt are coming here from Massachusetts. Glad to have you guys. So
Good to be here.
This is a huge thing for us because none of us, we are all huge Quentin Tarantino fans, but we've never actually seen a Tarantino film in the theater. Mostly because when we were growing up, we were too young, and also time just wasn't on our side whenever a movie of his came to town. But it's working out now. We all got good schedules, so what'd you guys think?
I thought it was really good. I thought, definitely not at all what I expected.
Definitely. I saw the trailers. Looked like it'd be a fun blast, a fun trip to the 60s. And it was that, but it was also very different than what I was expecting. This movie is about 2 hours and 41 minutes, according to what I read, and about 2/3 of the film is build-up. And
2/3 is generous. I'd say more like 9/10.
Yeah. This whole movie was just a huge build-up to a pretty brutal but hilarious finale, I'd say. The movie stars Leonardo DiCaprio as Rick Dalton, a former TV actor, star of a TV western of the 50s called Bounty Law, fictional, and his stunt double / best friend, Cliff Booth, played by Brad Pitt. And I just thought this was awesome. Tarantino bringing in his two biggest stars of two of his greatest movies of the past 10 years, Inglourious Basterds and Django Unchained, just bring them together. And I thought DiCaprio and Pitt were awesome together. They were a great team together. They play longtime friends and collaborators, and they do a good job in the beginning establishing their relationship. They're friends. Cliff's there kind of, as they say in his opening scene, helping Rick carry his load. And what'd you guys think of their friendship?
I think it was great. Yeah,
Probably the best part of the movie.
It was perfect. I was curious how it was going to break down, just what it would be like together, and they were perfect. It was hysterical.
And Rick is he's doing various guest roles on several TV shows where he plays the bad guy as opposed to the lead, and he's wondering if his career, the trailers point this part out, he's wondering, is his career dead? How much longer does he have? And in the beginning he meets up with this agent played by, and this was a really cool casting choice, Al Pacino plays Rick's eventual agent. And I just was like, Al Pacino in a Quentin Tarantino movie? That's fucking awesome. He's one of those actors you kept wondering, is Tarantino ever gonna use this guy? And he has used Robert De Niro before for Jackie Brown. So now he's got the second old school Italian actor in his movie. And the plot of this movie that's been advertised is it's about these fictional actors in Hollywood, and around the time the Sharon Tate, Charles Manson family murders happened. That's what they were advertising, and it sort of was about that, but it wasn't. It just went a completely different direction. And before we get to that, what did you guys think of Sharon Tate in this movie? Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate.
Perfect bait, because the whole time you're sitting there, they're developing her enough, but not really. They just kind of keep her around. You're like, all right, what's her play? you know from real life that she dies. So the whole time you're waiting there, you're like, okay, they're leading up to it perfectly, and it totally doesn't go the way you expect it. So the way I looked at it, it was a perfect feed into like your whole time it's suspenseful, but you don't really know. You think you know what's gonna happen, you don't, and then in typical Tarantino fashion, it just goes complete left twist, and you're like, oh shit, the hell.
Yeah, it just hits you on the head.
That's why I liked it so much, because it was nothing that you expected, but it was still like makes you think.
Kind of reminded me of Inglourious Basterds. I mean, it totally did remind me of Inglourious Basterds, where you have this whole movie and it's building up to something, and then the ending pretty much changes history. Like gives an alternate version alternate version of history. And like I said, most of the film takes place over the course of just 2 days before the last half hour.
Yeah.
It shows Rick and Cliff meeting with the agent, cut to Sharon Tate every now and then we cut to Rick going to a job on this new TV show, a real TV show called Lancer. And this film also advertised, it had a pretty big fucking cast.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So many people.
Yeah, like, we got some appearances by people Tarantino's used in the past, such as Michael Madsen, Mr. Blonde from Reservoir Dogs.
He was there? I didn't even notice that.
He was the sheriff on that clip from Bounty Law who's like, you killed his baby boy.
Okay, yeah, fact.
Yeah, that's Michael Madsen, and they advertised that Tim Roth was going to have a role, but I read that he got cut out, but they still credit him, and that was a real funny, and it sucks that he got cut, but it's a little touching that he still got the credit and they had cut. Like, they put the word cut next to his name in parentheses, just to show that, yeah, we wanted him, but I guess, who knows, it didn't fit. And, keep going, guys.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to say was another Tarantino, kind of like, not the same actress. It had Uma Thurman's daughter in it.
Really?
Maya Hawke, yeah. So she's in Stranger Things season 3. Another reason you need to watch it.
Yeah, who was she in this?
She was only in for one scene. She was the girl who was gonna be part of the murders, and then at the last second went in the car and drove away. So it's a cool little tidbit that I picked up. I don't usually pick up on that kind of stuff.
Oh,
so.
yeah, she is Stranger Things. She's the one who works with
Steve, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And they got a lot of people playing, a lot of actresses playing the Manson girls. They have Lena Dunham, and they have you said they have Uma Thurman's daughter. They also got Harley Quinn Smith, Kevin Smith's daughter.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like a movie that, like a Kevin Smith type of movie, so that's pretty funny.
When did Luke Perry come in?
He was the guy who was part of the Lancer show. He's the guy who came in with the cane.
Boston.
Yeah, Boston.
Yeah.
Boston. Oh, that's hilarious. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, and he negotiates with Rick the ransom for the little girl on the show that he's holding hostage. And Rick, he's in the first half of this movie, well, more, Rick Dalton is a fucking mess. Like, he's like drunk most of the time. He's depressed, and DiCaprio, he really played just a wreck of a human being pretty well, I think.
Oh, it was incredible, yeah.
Yeah, like, there were some moments where he was really getting on my nerves, but I had hope for him, and I'm glad he pulled himself together as the film went on. And, like, when he's struggling, when they're filming on Lancer, he did a good job playing that. Like, essentially, he's playing an actor who's not the worst, but he's not the best either. Which
he's finally coming to terms with too.
Yeah, it's funny because it's Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
And when he's struggling, and then he goes back to his trailer, and you missed this part because you had to leave for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
But he goes back to his trailer after fucking up a line read, and he's just like,
oh, so great.
He's like, why'd you do that? No, you're gonna get pulled together. You're gonna stop drinking.
No more drinking.
Then he immediately takes a flask. He's like, no, and then throws out the door.
That was incredible.
Yeah, and just he goes back, has this scene with Luke Perry playing Boston, and this movie is Luke Perry's final film. It's being released post his death, and can't say I've seen a ton of Luke Perry, like that show he did, Beverly Hills 90. I can't remember all the numbers. That was before my time, but I did watch him on a season of Oz, and he played like a televangelist who stole money, and he was really good in that. And this role, like, it's basically a cameo, and I think the reason they put him in the trailer was, well, he died, so should give him some big cred for his last film.
Yeah.
But he did well. It was a fun little cameo, and Rick Dalton with his acting for after just psyching himself into the right state of mind. It was actually pretty fun. Like, I wouldn't say it's like his acting in the show within the movie was Oscar worthy, but
I think that's the best part about it. I think that's like the whole thing is that he was great at playing a B-level actor.
Yeah.
For a guy who is one of the best actors of all time.
Yeah, like Leonardo DiCaprio really knocked it out of the park playing this character, and I love the moment with the child actress he's working with. Like, they have this scene earlier, and she takes her job more seriously than he does, and
I'm doing this. I'm sorry. We'll put another one.
Okay, it's pretty hot out.
I'm sweating out over you guys.
And
yeah, I'll be quiet now if you want to notice it.
does a pretty good job, and I love the scene where after they act together, she says, "That was the best acting I've ever seen
Oh my God,
in my
right,
life." And she said earlier she's only 8 years old.
Yeah.
And totally doesn't talk like a little kid, which that can go badly in some movies, but here it worked pretty well.
No, she killed it. She was great.
Yeah.
She was great.
Yeah. And while this is going on with Rick, him getting things in order on this job he's doing, we cut to Cliff, who's driving around LA, and Cliff and Rick's friendship, I really like their scenes together. At times I got a little worried that Rick was going to become a little too unlikable. Like, they're friends, and Cliff does some chores for him. It almost gave that vibe of a friend who pushes the other friend around, but then there were moments where it is genuine.
But yeah, I was going to say, I feel like, because that was my whole thing too, is like, Brad Pitt's character's a beast. Like, clearly, like, should not be being bossed around by Rick Dalton, who's a mess. But at the same time, Rick's not, like, he always does it in good faith. Like, he's never, like, you don't ever actually see him, like, belittling Brad Pitt's character. It's more just like Brad Pitt knows his role. For whatever reason, he has no ambition and is just totally cool being the stuntman. And yeah, I like the friendship. Like, I was waiting for it to get to that point, but no, it didn't seem like that. It seemed like Rick's just too self-consumed with himself to really realize anything outside of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Cliff made the movie. Brad Pitt was incredible.
Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio team up we never knew we wanted.
Yeah.
And Cliff's story in the film, he goes back to Rick's home, and we see Cliff, who's his stunt double, has a hard time getting some work these days. And we get this sequence that we're a little in disagreement about. He's on the roof, and you think it's a daydream. I think it's a flashback. We see Cliff working with Rick. Rick tries to vouch for him with this director on an episode of The Green Hornet, Randy, played by Kurt fucking Russell. And Kurt Russell, he's also the narrator in this film.
Yeah, that was surprising to me too.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, for a little while I was like, who is this? And then I was like, oh, it is Kurt.
Yeah.
It's a weird choice, but Kurt Russell, he did a very good job, and played a director just doesn't want any trouble getting out, doesn't want to piss off his wife who works with him. who's played by Zoe Bell, best known as Uma Thurman's stunt double for Kill Bill. And behind the scenes of the Green Hornet, we see Bruce Lee, who was well advertised as a character in this film. We see him giving like a philosophical talk to actors and crew members, and the only one who's not buying into it is Cliff, and he laughs. And what'd you think of Bruce Lee, like Mike Moe's portrayal?
I mean, I think he nailed the voice, like the accent, like he sounded just like Bruce Lee. I thought it was funny. Yeah, I had no problem with it. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I mean, I still, because it depends on if that scene was really a daydream. Because I was just saying, like, if it wasn't a daydream, then I just feel like they portrayed Bruce Lee as just kind of like this cocky kind of just like.
Well, he was cocky.
Yeah, but like also not even like not cocky, like. I get it, it's a movie, and like Brad Pitt's character kind of throws him around a little bit, but like, well, that was the one scene where I was watching it, I'm like, all right, that's Bruce Lee. Like, I don't know, I just kind of like, a little hard to believe here that Bruce Lee's not able to beat up a stunt double, so.
Well, this is why I think
that's why I'm saying if it was a daydream, then it changes it completely, because then it's like, they're not portraying Bruce Lee.
Yeah, it's Brad's interpretation of what would happen, but this is why I think it's a flashback, no, not a flashback, it's a daydream, because when he's driving Rick Dalton to the place to drop him off, he like mentions like, oh, so like you gonna need me today, whatever. He's like, no, Randy, whatever, so he doesn't really want me, whatever. So he didn't know that he wasn't allowed to be there. Like he had just found that out. Whereas in that daydream, like he obviously gets kicked out and so he would already known that he wasn't involved. You know what I mean? So it's like the way I looked at it was, and then it flashed back to him right afterwards on the roof. He's like laughing. We'll have to see it again, but and honestly, if it was a daydream, it'd be funny. But then it makes me question like who is this Cliff dude? Because he's sitting there daydreaming about him being the Beast, like showing up Bruce Lee, whatever. But he also there's part of him that still wants him to be that Beast, but he doesn't go like in real life. He's not doing anything. He's just sitting there, being Rick Dalton's little, like driver basically. He doesn't do it. There's no ambition to him. So he's an interesting character because he's obviously a stunt dog, like he's a beast, like he can do all the stunts, like he's a badass. The way he handled Tex at the very end, like he's clearly like a savage, and Rick's like the mess who like can barely even act, like is just trying to keep it together the whole time. So you'd think that Brad Pitt's the better fit to be the superstar, but he's not. Like it's a weird, what is his motivation? Why is he the way he is? Rick, you get him because Rick's transparent. He's just a mess. You know what I mean? So Brad Pitt's character is the one I was like, couldn't figure out what he's doing, but at the same time you love him because he's just a humble savage. So I don't know, I liked it.
Personally, I think it was a flashback, like just to explain how his career, like maybe is going a little in the stunt world. Like as far as how he could knock down Bruce Lee in that moment, well, in the scene, it comes off like Bruce doesn't take the fight seriously in the moment. So maybe he wasn't expecting that, and he did knock him down pretty easy on the first hit.
Well, also with that, it seemed like they totally made it seem like Bruce Lee's just a fraud. I think Brad Pitt's character first was a dancer. Like that's that whole whatever, like having your hands register as like a weapon of destruction or whatever, just an excuse so that you don't have to actually get in the fights or something like that. So it made it seem like Bruce Lee's really just a fraud.
I didn't get that vibe, but that was a common thing with Bruce Lee. People would, it's pretty hot. People would either challenge him or provoke him or accuse him of being a fraud, and they would often go up against. He would often invite them to fight him.
And would he win?
Almost every time.
That's awesome.
I believe yes, but here once again, Randy's wife comes in, acts like a complete cunt, and just puts an end to it. And with the Cliff character, there's a little bit of mystery to him. Like we hear that apparently people believe he killed his wife. And
they don't go into it at all. I wish there's a little more about it, like what they're even talking about.
Yeah, and
they had that one flashback where they show his wife, and she seems like miserable. She's like, "Oh, I date a loser. Like you're a loser."
Yeah, just a real pain in the ass, just being a bitch. And but then we see Cliff, and nothing about him implies that he's a like, yes, he does get violent at times, but nothing implies him like he's an evil fuck.
Not at all. Yeah, he's well tempered. He only does the violence when he
when he has to.
Yeah.
Throughout the day, he's driving around, and he keeps seeing this real wild hippie chick, and this character was also pretty well advertised in the trailer. Hold on a sec. Margaret Qualley as Pussycat. And she is a real Manson girl. And I think I read, as they show in the film, she wasn't involved in the killings.
Mm-hmm.
But she hitchhikes, and she keeps acting like the Manson girls, the Manson boys, just everybody in the Manson family was really just for their body language. I fucking hated these people.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god.
Just like they're annoying, and also like these are people who you would just want to punch if you ever saw them. And she asked him to drive her, and she takes him to where they're staying, and he knows the address. It's the address of this rancher who used to rent out his ranch to movies and TV shows that were making westerns. And Cliff he's a big guy, but he's not stupid. Like, he's suspicious, so he wants to go there just to see what's up with this old place that he used to go to a lot. And the scene of him at the ranch was, I think, one of the best sequences in the film.
For sure.
Just how creepy it was, just how...
And you didn't know what was going on, and you're like, what the hell is about to happen right now?
Yeah, like, this film is one of the best examples of Tarantino building up tension.
Oh, for sure.
And he meets the George guy, and he's played by Bruce Dern, who was the racist Confederate general in The Hateful Eight.
Yeah.
And Django's old owner in Django Unchained.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, all these big actors, old school actors, they're mostly just cameos, but they use them well. And I read that originally Tarantino did want to get Burt Reynolds to play George.
That would have been funny.
Yeah.
But he died before it could happen, so. And also, the character of Rick Dalton is a little bit based on Burt Reynolds. In the 60s, he was the star of he was one of the stars of a TV Western called Gunsmoke.
Mm-hmm.
And one of his best friends was a stuntman named Hal Needham. And they were very close. They worked together many times, and eventually Hal Needham became a director and directed Burt Reynolds in many films. Stroker Ace, The Cannonball Run, and Burt's most well-known film, Smokey and the Bandit. So, yeah, they were pretty tight pair of friends. And also the part where they talk about Rick possibly going into Italian westerns, spaghetti westerns. That's also a little similar to Clint Eastwood. He started out on the show Rawhide and then moved into the Man with No Name movies.
Yeah.
So it's just it's fun seeing these parallels to real actors of the time.
Yeah.
And at the ranch, he sees George, and George is blind, old, just a cranky old son of a bitch. And just Cliff leaves. He's seen enough to feel like nothing is like concerning enough to get the cavalry, but
it's very odd.
Yeah, it's very weird. And then he has this incident. What'd you think of the scene where he finds his tire slashed in that rotted tube?
That scene was great.
Yeah, that was a great one.
This film really took its shot at fucking hippies.
Oh my god, yeah.
just fucking idiots, fucking assholes who preach about just a bunch of bullshit. And he knocks the guy, so he makes him cough blood, forces him to fix his tire, and they try to get the other guy, Tex, to come in, but I guess the guy fixed the tire really fast because he's out of there.
Yeah.
And Rick on his TV show, the cowboy that he's acting with, James Stacy, he was, I believe, the star of Lancer, the TV show they're portraying there. And that's Timothy Olyphant playing him from Justified. And he also, one of the best Western shows of all time, Deadwood. So
yeah, that's where. Yeah, I know. I recognize him from Justified, but you're right. I didn't know who. Like, I didn't recognize his face. Didn't know who he was.
And the scene where he's talking with Rick, and he asks, "Is it true you were almost in The Great Escape?" And we see a clip that they took footage from The Great Escape, and they did a masterful job of editing Leonardo DiCaprio in there to look like he was almost there. Like, you can tell a little bit, but that is some of the best.
CGI, or whatever.
Or great. I know Tarantino hates CGI, so he tries to avoid it. But that is some of the best effects work I have ever seen, as far as putting someone in another movie. That was
an older movie too, like where it's
and
the camera effects still like blended well.
Yeah, and they matched everything almost perfectly.
Yeah.
And after that, all that shit goes down. They go home, and I loved how when they're watching TV, we saw Rick on this TV show, FBI, and the quality of the show, the way it looks, was done very, very well. Just the low grade TV quality.
Mm-hmm.
What did you guys think of seeing all this old school stuff just from the 60s?
It was well done, yeah.
Yeah.
That's half the stuff I feel like with Tarantino. Is like he's very good at just like setting the scene. Like, you felt like it had the 60s vibe all over the place, and he kind of would do little stuff like, I don't know. It was cool.
I'm watching Mad Men right now, which also is in the 60s, so like I'm like, it was definitely this movie, I don't know, it's just kind of like, it's more of like, the one thing they did a lot was like they kind of used, like, as the late 60s, there's a lot of like colorful kind of like eccentric styles, I guess.
Yeah. Clothes, and design.
Yeah, and they did a great job showing that, which I thought was cool.
You could hear the cigarette burn every single time they lit one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of smoking in this movie.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot.
Hey, it's true to the times, man.
Yeah.
Everybody smoked, and anyone who doesn't quit because they think showing smoking is bad these days, they're being fucking dumbasses. And as that day is going on, Sharon Tate, she's going to see this movie called The Wrecking Crew. A movie, Dean Martin is in it, Nancy Kwan, and fun fact, as they show, Bruce Lee was a fight choreographer on that movie. And also, guess who made his first acting role in The Wrecking Crew?
Oh.
Chuck Norris.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee, random fact, no connection to what this movie's about, they were sparring buddies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Isn't Chuck Norris like twice his size?
I think he was about 3 inches taller than him.
Oh, okay.
And Chuck Norris was the middleweight world karate champion at one point. So he's a legit fighter.
Yeah.
For sure.
And his first major role in a film was Bruce Lee's film Way of the Dragon, where he played the villain. And Bruce Lee, spoilers, snaps his fucking neck. And Sharon Tate, well, she doesn't get a ton of major stuff happening, but she is in a lot of the film. Like, it is cutting back between the three of them, and I saw that whole press conference shit. Some reporter asked Tarantino why she doesn't have more dialogue, and a lot of her performance, as Margot Robbie herself, I believe, said, a lot of it is done with her face. Like, her character is very, like, everything about her is pretty much expressed through her face and body language.
Yeah.
And I thought she did a good job with that. I love actors who can really be expressive and not have to say much. And the vibe I get from Sharon Tate, the character in this movie, is she's happy and she's trying to be happy all the time. Like, seems like that's a major part of her life that she strives to keep going. And at times it got a little annoying for me, but other times it also felt a little, I don't know if you guys feel this, a little sad. Like, if she's not happy, what is she?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I kind of got the vibe that she was just genuinely, it was a good time of her life. Like, she had just kind of gotten a new big movie. She just seemed to be a happy person. She liked who she was with. I was getting the vibe that that's what they were setting it up for, that it was, they wanted you to think that this was a great moment in her life. She's super happy, and then you expect her to die, because that's what happens in her life. So it's setting you up the whole time. You're like, oh, okay, so naturally she'll die. And then... And
we see her at the movie theater watching The Wrecking Crew, and she's waiting to see how the audience reacts, and she just feels happy even when the laughter at certain moments isn't at the highest, just knowing that people liked her in this movie. And I thought that was there's some touchingness to that. Just seeing, feeling proud of your work. I like that.
Yeah.
And of course, we see her throughout the film a little bit with Roman Polanski, who, well, Roman Polanski is a character in the film, but he doesn't have a lot of major scenes. And there's that scene where they're at the Playboy Mansion, which that was a fun looking party.
Yeah.
Just seeing everybody, like, everybody's dancing in this movie. There's a lot of 60s dancing in this film. And we see her dancing. We see Steve McQueen, played by Damian Lewis, talking about how Jay Sebring, Sedring, I can't remember the name at the moment, is a friend of her, Polanski, who she used to be engaged for, and then she left him for Polanski at the drop of a hat, apparently. So that's another thing about the character. There's a bit of a carefree, doesn't think about, like, maybe the grand scheme of things picture there. Like, she just lives in the moment.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That decision's gonna come back to bite her in the ass. Marrying Roman Polanski.
Yeah, and that line of, so she goes for short men who look like 12-year-old boys, and I'm just like, well, her husband went for 13-year-old girls at one point, so maybe it was a match made. And after all that, the film abruptly cuts to 6 months later. Like, that was a pretty big jump cut in time.
I was curious about that, yeah. But it made sense, I guess, because, I mean, he went to Italy. I was surprised they did that. And then right after that, that's when they start narrating it, too. So it was like almost like a whole shift in, like, the tone of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a little narration earlier, but yeah, we see Rick went to Italy, and he made 4 Italian movies. And see, it's unclear, like, the way they act and talk, they don't talk like he's gonna have, like, a big comeback or anything.
Yeah.
Just that he made the work and he had a great time. And Cliff was his stunt double, so he got some work.
Finds a wife.
Yeah, that was pretty abrupt, and I believe that woman was Lorenza Izzo, who she isn't anymore, but for a while she was together with Eli Roth, who Tarantino is good friends with.
Mm-hmm.
So working with your buddies, which kind of was what led to, I don't know this for sure, but I assume that's why Harley Quinn Smith is in the film, because he's good friends with her dad. He and Kevin have been friends since they came up in the 90s.
Yeah.
And it's funny that Maya Hawke is in this movie, because her mom worked with Tarantino on the Kill Bills.
Mm-hmm.
But her mom and Tarantino had a bit of a tiff at one point.
Yeah.
Because he made her drive a car, and she crashed and got hurt.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And wasn't there, like, they knew that it wasn't safe at all? Like, Uma Thurman, didn't she say, like, I don't want to do this? And, like, I heard Tarantino was, like, yelling at her or something, like...
I don't know who yelled, but he insisted, saying it would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
How badly did you get hurt?
I think she has, like, still some damage to this day.
Oh, wow.
But, they made up, I believe, and her daughter's in the film.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just like to wonder, what was her mom's advice to her working for Quentin?
Don't drive.
Yeah.
Wait.
That's her only part.
I think it would be wear a seatbelt.
Yeah.
And the big jump happens, and Rick talks to Cliff in a scene that could have gone bad, but it was sadly touching, where he tells him that he doesn't think he can afford him anymore. And it seems like after working together, being best friends for 9 years, they're drifting apart, like parting ways. And Rick's got whatever he's doing right now. And Cliff seems like he's a little unsure. He has no idea what he's doing, but he's not going to think about that right now. And they're going to have like one last big night together, which happens in the film is the night the Manson murders were supposed to happen. All the while, Sharon Tate is hanging with her friends who were all there, and they're on separate areas of the city. They're not together. They haven't met at this point. And then night comes, and Cliff, who we see in a very funny flashback moment, bought a cigarette from some random chick on the highway that she says was dipped in acid. And apparently it's been sitting around for half a year just waiting to be used.
Oh, I remember you.
Yeah.
And he's like, let's go.
Yeah.
Ching. And he takes his dog for a walk, which I'm not sure you should take your dog for a walk after you do drugs.
Yeah.
And what'd you guys think of Cliff's dog?
Great. Started off like you didn't think much about him, like, 'cause it's just like a dog in a movie, kind of like a normal thing, and then definitely turns into have a pretty big role in the movie. That I like the way they kind of I like the way they kind of like gave it, like made that. I don't know. It was just kind of like so unexpected and stuff.
Sick.
Yeah,
It was sick. I was all about. And he also, the dog's the one that noticed them too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He did that look, and then all of a sudden Brad Pitt's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like some of the Manson family members come in, and they are Tex, played by Austin Butler, Mikey Madsen as Sadie, and Maya Hawke as Linda Kasabian, and Madison Beatty as Patricia Krenwinkel. And I'm not going to refer to them all by names because it's hard to remember at the moment, but yeah, they show up and they're in the street. Apparently they're waiting to go in and kill Tate and whoever else is there. And Rick, who's already pretty fucking drunk, is mixing some margaritas. He hears the noise and he goes out, and it's a little amazing they didn't kill him. Yeah, he yells at them. He's like, "You fucking hippies!" Oh well, he kind of looks like a hippie himself in the moment, and he looks at the one in the front seat, I think, at Sadie. He's like, "What are you looking at, you ugly ginger-haired bitch?"
That was a great line in the movie. Yeah. I thought he was gonna get shot right there. I'm like, just for that comment alone, I thought that girl was gonna do something. But
Seriously.
yeah.
And then they go back down, and then they're like, "Was that Jake Cahill from Bounty Law?" And then the one in the back seat starts going we grew up watching shows telling us it was okay to kill, so we should kill them. Just like the people playing the Manson family did great jobs playing brainwashed cult members.
Yeah.
Like they all came off as crazy, evil, and deluded. Just they played that type of role perfectly, and they're about to go up, and then one chickens out, Maya Hawke.
Yeah.
And instead of going straight to Tate, they go to Rick Dalton's house, and right before they go up, Cliff has come back from walking his dog, and the acid, he's starting to kick in. And what'd you think of Brad Pitt acting high?
I thought he was great as like everything. I can't even find a flaw with Brad Pitt in this movie. Yeah, his timing was perfect because like the way he was kind of like figuring out the circumstance, because they walk in with like guns and knives and it takes him like probably about like 2 minutes to figure out what's going on. He's just kind of like being goofy, like being nice to them, and then before he kind of like really starts to realize it. So like I thought the way he kind of like the way he like figured everything out, his kind of like facial expressions, I think he did a great job with that part.
Yeah, just the high laugh.
Yeah.
He's like, looks at the kid, goes, I know you. And Tex is like, I'm the devil. And he's like, no, it was something stupider than that. Dumber than that. Rex. And then he does what you've been doing. Do it again. And Brandy, the dog, just goes straight for, I believe, Tex's nuts or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then a big fight. Like, it's clear these kids were not expecting this to happen. And yeah, basically, this movie pulls an Inglourious Bastards where they change history. Inglourious Bastards, you remember what they did with Hitler at the end?
I actually never saw it. I know Nick has though. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah. Change history because Hitler gets burned at the very end.
Well,
that's why I like this one, because it was just caught you so off guard.
Yeah, talk about that. Like the whole film is building up. Sharon Tate being like she's going to be, of course, like we know history, and she dies. So, and I was prepared to open this video with a joke. Sharon Tate dies. Sorry for spoiling it. But no, that is not what fucking happens here. Sharon Tate, she and her friends are not the people the Manson family visit at the end of this film. And why Tarantino decided to change history? He has his reasons. Like, Inglourious Bastards, he gave Hitler what he truly deserved, as opposed to just killing himself less viciously than he deserved. Here, we see Sharon Tate doesn't die, and the Manson family members, like, I believe they all ended up going to prison. This shows the Manson family members here, Tex, Sadie, everybody else, just, they get the shit beat out of them.
Yeah.
And what did you think of this whole sequence where Cliff, high as hell, just beats them up while Brandy rips one of them up,
My
too?
favorite part is when, so he sends a dog after the guy, and then that girl charges at him, he just takes the can of the dog food and just punts it off her face. Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, she's crying like a little baby.
I thought it was amazing. I just, like, super graphic. Was definitely Tarantino, which obviously to be expected for him to not pull any, like, hold anything back, which he didn't. Like, I felt like I was watching Game of Thrones, Nick. Like, it was just like so gory, just so like, but like it was perfect. It was just kind of like, I thought everything about the sequence was great. All like up until when they went outside to like when Rick was in the pool, like that, like the way it kind of like blended, like, and makes you forget about Rick for a little bit. Then all of a sudden, like, I just thought everything about it kind of just was like
Cliff was the action hero for the end, but Rick was allowed to get a little in there.
Yeah, he's a showman, which makes sense when he flame throws that girl in the pool. It's a little like, it's not as glamorous as Brad Pitt's kills, but you know, it's I mean, it's more glamorous than Brad Pitt's kills, but
considering how psychotic this bitch was, just how whiny, screeching she was.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, yeah, she's the one we want to see die the most brutal death.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was not disappointing.
Yeah.
It was like blowing up the house at the end of Django with Samuel L. Jackson. Just, you love seeing him go out in the hardest way.
Mm-hmm.
And
not only did she go out in the hardest way, she went out in the hardest way like 3 times. She like, you think she's dead, like she gets the dog food thrown at her.
Glass.
You think she's dead, yeah, glass. Then the dog starts going after her, and you think, all right, like she's fought enough, she's dead, like, and then she just stumbles out to the pool, goes in the pool, and then gets flamethrowered, which is just like,
yeah.
that girl had, if there's any way I want to die, it's the opposite of that, because that was just like the worst possible way to die. And
Sadie she gets her head smashed in against the fireplace.
Yeah, that might even be more graphic. That scene was insane too. That opening sequence.
And Cliff is doing most of this with a knife in his side, which, what can you say? Brad Pitt played a badass in this. And then the cops show up, and the cops are real douchey in their questioning. You notice that?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, even when in a situation where they're not the villains, or just, I don't know, the antagonist to the villains, Tarantino just doesn't like cops that much. I mean, they threatened to boycott one of his movies because he said he didn't like police shooting innocent people.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Cliff is taken away to the hospital, and I love the final moment between them. Like, just really cements their friendship. And when Rick put his hand on the window, I just thought that was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great end right there.
And then we get one more ending where Jay, Sharon Tate's friend, is at the gate, and he's like, hey, and asks, what happened? And he tells him, and it's like, holy shit. And I'm like, yeah, and in an alternate version, it's you guys, and you don't come out the winner.
Yeah, seriously.
And he tells him Sharon's a fan of him, and asks, because at this point she's really pregnant, do you want, Sharon Tate calls in, and she invites Rick up. Jay's like, yeah, come on, and gets to meet his famous neighbor, who, yeah, it turns out likes his show. And the film then ends pretty abruptly. I mean, yeah, what else? There's not much else you could tell, but the film didn't play out the way we expected in all the best ways, and it ended not how you would think it would end.
No, because I haven't seen Inglourious Basterds, so I never knew that Tarantino, like, the whole change in history thing, I didn't know that he, like, to me that option wasn't even on the table. Like, I didn't think that was a possibility to happen. So then, like, seeing that, I don't know, it just shocked me so much, because I just, like, not what I expected, because obviously I was thinking, like, the only way it can end, like, there's no shot that Sharon Tate doesn't die, because, like, I just didn't think you could, like, change history like that. But that like, the way he did it, I don't know, definitely made a lot of sense.
It's like he gives it the ending we wish had happened.
Yeah, exactly. Because that, like, the whole time during the movie, I was thinking, like, oh, I don't want to have to see Sharon Tate die, like especially when something good would happen to her in the movie, and it just kind of, like, definitely played out the way, like, you didn't expect, but the way you'd want it to. So
yeah, it was cool. It was definitely, because, like, the whole time, and even, like, they, like, talk about their night beforehand, like, they're out dinner drinking at El Coyote. They come back, and, like, so the whole time you're like, okay, here we go, about to see it happen. And then it's literally like Rick coming out, running to the car there, and then they're like, okay, wait, no, let's go to his house now.
Yeah.
So it was literally, you had your idea of what was gonna happen up until, like, the last 10 minutes of the movie, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, wow, this is not what I expected at all. And you let Brad Pitt be a beat. It was cool. I liked it a lot.
I loved it a lot too. I don't know if this beats Pulp Fiction or Jackie Brown, but
yeah, I don't think so.
It's like a different type of movie for Tarantino.
It's a fun one to watch.
Like, a lot of people will say that they come to expect a lot of stuff from Quentin Tarantino. This movie is him really trying a lot of different stuff. like, even with the opening sequence, it opens very quietly, which is, like, most of his movies open, like, with a loud opening credit sequence. But this movie opened almost subtly, and it built everything up.
Yeah,
and
I didn't even know the movie was starting. I was like, wait, is this it? Is this it? And then all of a sudden you see Leo, you're like, okay, it's it, but it's like still kind of like super, quiet.
And the way it ends, it's like the ending of a horrible night, and just looking forward to tomorrow, hopefully better.
Yeah.
And the change of history, I thought it was nice. Well, not sure I have 100% opinion on it, but I thought it was very well done, and it was sweet. It was happy. And I thought Leonardo DiCaprio did a fantastic job. Even had to be a little dirty at times. And Brad Pitt, once again, wonder why isn't he the actor with those muscles of his?
Yeah.
But he played a great friend, good tough guy, who had a heart of gold. Might have killed his wife, but we let that slide.
Yeah, we'll just forget about that.
And Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate. I think the criticisms against her in this film, I think they're a little more harsh than they needed to be. I mean, she did a good job playing her part, and she fit into the story just perfectly, I feel.
Yeah, I think people wanted it to be more about her, but that's not what he was going for. It was kind of like,
It's like, and it's weird to bring him up during a Tarantino review, but it's like Spike Lee doing a film about the Son of Sam killings and having it focus on the people who live around the area. And everybody, as far as I could see, did a good job in this film. The little guy they got to play Charles Manson in that pretty much one scene he had in the film.
Literally just one scene, yeah.
I thought the guy they got did a reasonably good job. Let's see, Damon Harriman. Just one scene, looks like a creepy little shit.
Yeah.
And, I don't know what to say. This film was terrific. I'm not sure it would be in my top 5 Tarantino movies, but it's definitely really up there as one of his most impressive, and like, he took risk. He changed the way he did things a little in this film. Like, he went about the storytelling differently, and I just think he pulled it off very well.
Yeah. And I do too.
Yeah, same. No, I liked it a lot.
And his writing is still dynamite. It's got a great flow, and not as fuck heavy as some of his other movies.
Definitely not. Which I think might be to keep up a little the 60s, 'cause that whole like 60s image too is kind of like that like squeaky clean, no swearing type of thing. So I like
they swear, but not as much as say in Reservoir Dogs. And any final thoughts you gotta give? Because at the moment I'm all talked out.
I think I pretty much said everything I wanted to say.
Nick?
Cliff Booth's a beast.
Yeah, he is. I recommend checking this movie out. I mean, yeah, we spoiled it pretty much to death, but if you have seen it, maybe see it again, and if you still want to see it after hearing us give everything away, go see it, and if you have seen it, leave a comment down below, and maybe let us know what you think. I had a really great time. I loved that I could watch this with you guys.
That's a blast.
This is our first time seeing a Tarantino film in the theater, and I can say definitely we were not disappointed. Big props to Tarantino himself and his amazing crew of fellow filmmakers, Fred Raskin, Robert Richardson, and Arion Phillips. Editor, cinematographer, costume designer, because great job recreating the 60s, and that's all we gotta say before we drag on any more than we have to. It's probably gonna be a little under an hour, this video, so till next time, everybody.